Can the participants see my screen?
Yeah, they can see they joined using their mobile number through the mobile.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Saran. I'll be the instructor for this course. Could you please quickly confirm if you can hear me well and see my screen? All right, thank you for the confirmation. Uh, a quick introduction about the course. So as a part of this course, starting from the very basics of the Linux operating system, we'll briefly focus on different areas like uh, user administration. So the topic is pretty much into how to create the users groups and all, and then we'll slowly progress into the areas like package management, how to create the packages, how to install softwares in a Linux operating system, and then process monitoring, wherein we will focus on monitoring different processes and also about the different tools that we will make use of in order to monitor the processes in a Linux system. Okay, and as part of the introduction itself, we'll try to cover most of the fundamental concepts around what the files are, what directories are, how to check the basic permissions that are associated with files and directories, etc. Okay, and then we have topics around file system security and management. That means which is like starting from the file permissions, will gradually advance into the other security topics. Okay, so wherein we have topics like advanced security, we have SC Linux. Okay, so security enhanced Linux, and like that we'll also focus on topics like firewall, etc. Okay, and uh, coming into the concept of the disk management, we'll see how to create partitions. Okay, how to create different types of partitions, like primary partitions, secondary partitions, and we'll also see how to create extended logical LVM partitions, LVM logical volume manager, etc. Okay, so so with that, so we would have covered most of the core concepts of Linux topics. So then we will proceed. So once you're familiar with all these basic concepts, we will then proceed to topics like server configurations. So with respect to server configuration, we will focus on different kinds of server configurations, primarily uh, NFS server, okay, DHCP server or DNS server, like that. We'll cover a few core server configurations. Okay, so and then if you have heard about shell scripting, so most of the users who work on Linux systems, they are familiar with the concept of shell scripting. You should be familiar with shell scripting. That basically helps you in order to automate the things in the Linux system. Okay, so all most of the day-to-day activities that you take a software engineer or a Linux administrator, so they try to automate the repeated tasks that you perform using shell scripting. Okay, so we will focus on the area of shell scripting. So with that we will wind up the course. So like this, we have all these topics that are going to be covered as a part of this course. Okay, so feel free to ask me your queries at any point of time. All right. So if you feel that I have not covered any of the topics, you can also mention those topics. Okay. So we will try to include it. I'll try to provide as much information as I can regarding those topics as well. Okay. So I would expect that the participants, uh, actively show their involvement by asking questions, and that will basically help us, to make the session more interactive and useful for everyone. Okay. So in today's class, we will focus on the installation of Linux operating system. Okay, and also I'll give you a brief about. I'll give you a brief about two different versions of Linux operating system. So parallelly, we will go through CentOS 6 operating system and also CentOS 7 operating system. Okay, so if you ask me like why two different versions, so there are some uh, changes that have been made from CentOS 6 to 7. Okay, and I mean, you take any organization, people are still using CentOS 6. Okay, and they are yet to migrate to CentOS 7. In case if you are interested to go for a Red Hat certification, Linux certification, then you have to give the exam in Red Hat 7. Okay, so Red Hat 7 and Red Hat and CentOS are similar operating systems. Okay, so keeping this in mind, we cover all the topics. Okay, using CentOS 6 as well as CentOS 7. So wherever you can see, I mean, wherever there are differences between CentOS 6 and 7, I'll try to mention those topics. I'll try to show both operating systems and give you a difference about the two. Okay. Okay. So in today's session, so I am gonna quickly show you how to perform installation, where to find the software, so that you can download the software and make your system ready. Okay, for for the next class. And also I would like to give you a quick introduction about the Linux operating system in general. Okay, so let us start the topic with a Linux operating system. Uh, so this would definitely help you in order to have a quick understanding of the Linux operating system in general. That means what kind of operating system you are using. You might have heard about Red Hat Linux. CentOS, Fedora, OpenSUSE, okay, and you might have also heard words like Unix operating system, okay. So, is there any difference between Unix and Linux operating system? If you've heard about Solaris, IBM AIX, okay. So, we call this as like an umbrella of NIX operating systems, okay. So, since you are learning about the Linux administration course, so it is good if you have an understanding of all these operating system, what comes under what, etc. Okay, so the first point that I want you to remember is Unix operating systems come under a different category. Linux operating systems come under a different category. Okay, so it's like Unix operating systems have evolved first. Okay, so keeping Unix operating system and the architecture in mind, the Linux operating system has been developed. So Unix is different, Linux is different. So when I say Unix operating system, okay, it is under Unix operating system we have Sun Solaris, okay, and IBM AX, and then HP also has come up with its own operating system, okay, which is based on Unix. So these are all the different operating systems that must be considered as Unix operating systems, okay. They are commercial, they are not open source, you cannot just download and make use of it. And at the same time, Unix operating systems, since these are proprietary, so what they did is they have also released their own proprietary hardware. So if you take Solaris, you should be able to install Solaris operating system only on their own Spark hardware devices. Okay, so that is how they have restricted themselves. Okay, since those are commercial softwares. So that is pretty much about Unix operating systems. So if you come to Linux operating systems, so first of all we will focus on Red Hat Enterprise Linux or Red Hat Linux. So Red Hat is the company who's providing the operating system. Okay, so all the Linux operating systems are open source in nature. So when I say open source, anyone can download the operating system. So there is a license involved, which is called as the GNU license. According to the license, you can download the operating system, you can make changes to it, and again, release it on your name as long as you restrict yourselves, okay, as per the rules defined in the license. Okay, so uh, considering the license, which is the open source license, so what people did is they started making use of the Linux kernel. So kernel is something that has been developed, okay, initially. So they have downloaded the kernel, they have added some new features to the kernel, and they have started releasing that on their name. So that is how we have Red Hat Enterprise Linux or the Red Hat Linux. So Red Hat Linux is open source in nature, and at the same time, if you want support from them, so the support part is commercial. That means as a part of support, they will help you with all the patches that are necessary. If you're expecting any features, they might consider those requirements as well. So that is how uh, the Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Most of the organizations, they prefer Red Hat Enterprise Linux because of the support that they get from the Red Hat organization. Now, the same Red Hat Linux, if you remove, you know, the name called Red Hat, okay, so it's just keeping the commercial elements aside. The operating system is released with the name called as CentOS. Okay, So Red Hat and CentOS both are the same. Also, we have a different version called as Fedora, so which is like all the features which are going to get released in the future. Okay, which are currently in the test phase. They are available under the name Fedora. Alright. Participants, I would like to request you to please keep yourself on mute so that I mean I could hear a lot of disturbance from the other people, so that would help me a lot. Thank you. So so other than CentOS, Red Hat, Fedora. So when you hear these three names, so you need not I hope you are clear now. So all these three provide the same operating system with the same set of packages, okay, and the only difference is Fedora mainly contains the features which are uh, going to be released in the future, okay, and so which are like under implementation, under testing, so all these things, okay, they would come under the Fedora, and once these features are production ready, they will release it under the name of CentOS as well as Red Hat. Now Red Hat provides commercial support. Red Hat also provides some you know commercial features. So that once you get once you purchase the license, you would also get some commercial features with the operating system. Whereas when it comes to CentOS, everything is free. It is available for free. So even if you are going for Red Hat certification, you can practice the entire course using CentOS operating system. So we will focus, we will go through the entire course using CentOS operating system. Okay, I hope this concept is clear for you. Now, where do I get CentOS operating system? How do I install the operating system? So this is the topic that we will focus now. So now if you look at my browser, okay, so here I have provided one of the mirror site that has this operating system. So CentOS or Red Hat, they have a lot of mirror sites. So mirror site, or you can call them as repositories. So these are located pretty much in all the regions. Okay, you can simply search for CentOS, download CentOS. Just use that word. Automatically, will get one of the repository closer to your location, or you can just stick to the link that I have provided. It's totally up to you. Okay, so a CentOS operating system. Okay, here as you can see, uh, would be around 4 GB in size. Okay, 3.6 gigs. Uh, it is the DVD1.iso that you can see here. So this one. Okay, so you can download the ISO file, and I mean I have also downloaded the same ISO file. I will show you how to perform the installation using the ISO file. Okay, so we also have, you can also see there is a different ISO file which is dvd2.iso, but you don't need dvd2.iso. It is like language specific. So software related to other languages are part of dvd2. It is sufficient if you download dvd1.iso. Clear? Now other than the dvd1.iso, which is the main operating system, okay, you can also download individual packages from the same website. Let me show you that as well. Okay, so it is called as mirror.centos.org. So here you can see there is so all the folders or files that you see here, usually they are the files that represent your operating system. Okay, and among these files there is a folder called packages. If you click on that folder, you can get to see all the packages. There are around 4,000 packages present as a part of your operating system. Okay, and all these packages, they have an extension of called RPM. Okay, RPM means Red Hat Package Manager. Okay, so all these packages will have that extension. Both, I mean, the Red Hat, or you take CentOS, or you take Fedora. Okay, if you want any specific packages also, you can download them from this particular location. Okay, so these are the only two things that you would be requiring to know. Okay, so now we will proceed to the installation part. So let me just give you a quick tour about how the operating system looks like. Okay, how we are going to work on the Linux operating system. Then we will start the installation part. Okay, so before starting this quick tour, let me introduce you to this software as well. It is totally up to you whether you install the operating system on your laptop or desktop as a whole, or if you want. So this is another way. This is called as a virtual manager software, Oracle Virtual Manager. And you can see on my screen there is something called Oracle VM Virtual Box Manager. So I have Windows operating system. So I have installed Windows on my laptop, and inside that I have installed the Oracle Virtual Manager. Okay, so this software basically helps me to create virtual instances. Okay, so the process is very simple. You just have to search for Oracle VM Virtual Box Manager. You'll get a .exe file. Double click and run it. As soon as you run it, you can get to. You will see this box. Okay, now inside this, I have installed CentOS 6 and Debian 2. Both are just the names. I mean, both are two different operating systems. One is CentOS 6 and another one is CentOS 7. Okay, these names are something that I've just randomly given. So the process how to create these operating system instances is something that I'll show you now. I hope this part is clear, right? Just search for Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager. You'll get a .exe for Windows. Double click, install. As soon as you install, you'll get this particular terminal. Okay. So once you get this terminal, here you would see blank space, and you have to click on New. Okay. So if you so going through the steps in an order, the first step is I want you to go to that link which I have showed you previously. Download the ISO file, which is around 3.3 plus GB in size. Okay, so download the software. Once you download it, download Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager and run this. So once both are ready, click on New. Okay, and click Next. So here choose anything. Say for example, whatever you type, it will show you the corresponding operating system and version here. Okay. Say for example, I've just randomly given REDCL1. Click Next. Now here, coming to the operating system requirements. Okay. So it is sufficient even if you have 512 MB of RAM, free RAM available. Okay, you need to provide RAM as well as the disk in order to perform. So we have to provide the RAM and the disk space as an input in the beginning itself. Okay. So here if you see 512 MB is the minimum RAM that you have to provide. So uh, just give me 1 second. Alright. So what I was saying is 512 MB of RAM is the minimum amount of RAM that you have to give. But I would suggest that if you have plenty of RAM available, you give at least 2 GB of RAM as an input. So that basically helps you to start your Linux operating system in a graphical mode. There are different types of modes involved. That means different types in the sense graphical and non-graphical. If you don't have enough RAM, you can stick to 512 MB. If you have enough RAM, I would suggest that you proceed with 2 GB of RAM. Okay. So since this is just a test installation, I'll proceed with 512 MB. So the next step is go for create new hard disk. Okay, the first option, VDI, VirtualBox disk image. You can choose any of this, disk allocated or fixed size. So this is where we have to provide the disk space. So I would suggest that you give 20 or 25 GB. Okay, you allocate 20 to 25 GB as an input here because we have to, we need that disk space in order to uh, test a lot of other features. Okay, so you need enough free space in order to test those features. So 8 GB is not sufficient. So if you're just uh, practicing the installation process, you can just stick to 8 GB of space. That is the minimum space, disk space that is needed. But the system where you're going to, keep it permanently for practice, I would suggest that it has at least 20 to 25 GB of free space available. Minimum RAM 512 MB, minimum disk space 8 GB. Recommended is 2 GB of RAM and 20 GB of disk space. These are the only things that two things that you have to keep in mind. Alright, just give me 1 second. There is some issue with the software. It is Excuse me. All right. So this is the operating system post the installation in a graphical mode. We'll go through the steps on how to perform the installation as well. So here, if you can see, Linux operating system, you can have it installed in a graphical mode or non-graphical mode. You can start the operating system in a graphical mode or a non-graphical mode. Okay, but most of the time throughout the course we will focus uh, on the non-graphical mode only. It is not the graphical mode where we will be working. So as a part of the Linux administration course, you need to be familiar with a lot of Linux commands. Okay, every operation that you do is associated with a Linux command. You need to practice all those commands. So this is going to be a 15 days course, uh, like 2 hours every day. So since there are a lot of commands that you would be learning, so I would expect that you practice all those commands every day. Okay, and be ready for the next class. So this is how your the graphical mode would look like. Okay, so you can suppose the installation. You can quickly look into all the options that are available in Linux. This is a CentOS 7 operating system. Okay. Similarly, uh, if you want to look at CentOS 6, so what I did is I started CentOS 6 in a non-graphical mode. Okay. At the same time, you can see CentOS 7 in a graphical mode. Okay. Now we will be performing all the different kinds of tasks on the command prompt only. So like we have the Windows command prompt, similarly you will have a Linux command prompt. So in graphical mode, if you want to see the Linux command prompt, you have to right click and say open in terminal. Okay, so that is how you would see the graphical terminal. Okay, so the advantage is here you can open multiple terminals, whereas if you start your operating system in a non-graphical mode like I did for CentOS 6, there would be only one terminal that will be open. You cannot open multiple terminals in a non-graphical mode. Okay, now in either it is a graphical mode or a non-graphical mode, we will be focusing on learning a lot of commands that are associated with all the topics that I've mentioned in the beginning, which we'll cover in this course. Okay, so when I say commands, so everything is a command. If you want to say, for example, check the host name, computer name. Okay, there is a command called host name. If you want to know where you are located, pwd. Okay, and so every question that you have, okay, in order to answer that question, we have to issue a command. Okay, and so what are the, so where am I? So I'm in this particular location. What is there in my current location? That means even in Windows, the moment you open your system, you are located at some location called as desktop. If you want to see the contents of the desktop, you can see everything in the graphical mode, but in the command line mode, you have to issue a command in order to see the contents. Okay, so you say ls is a command that would help you in order to see the contents of that particular directory. Okay, and clear is a command in order to clear the screen. Okay, and Like this, there are a lot of commands. There is a command called uh, fdisk. Okay, or every command is also associated with an additional argument that you can give in order to get more information about the command. So fdisk-l will give you the information about the different partitions present in a Linux system. The partitions are similar to the drives which are present in a Windows system. Okay, so like you have C drive, D drive, here we have partitions. So like this, uh, go to say for example, go to this location called cd/home. So home contains all the users who are present. So in Windows we have what C colon users, and then we have different users present. Here the location is home directory. So we call them, instead of folders, we call them as directories. Under home we have two different users called Saran and Kumar. So you can log into the system as Saran or Kumar. These are two different users created. Okay, so like this, if you want, we can add another user like command again, user add xyz. So it is called, okay, there is already a group existing with name xyz, so it is not allowing us to add it. So I'll say user add abc. Okay, ls. So a user got created with the name called abc, and I'm going to reset the password called for abc. You see, if you compare the execution time for Windows as well as Linux, okay, so creating, in order to create a user, I need not have to search where the application is and click on the application, choose the features, you know, give the input. I mean, uh, so as you get user to Linux operating system, creating a user is very fast. So, so you would save a lot of time in terms of the execution. Okay, now you simply exit. We are done, right? I have logged as user ABC. So just a few seconds, I've created a user, I've received the password, and I've logged in as that particular user. Done. So this is how, you know, you will be configuring a lot of things. You will be saving a lot of time, and not only that, from a performance perspective, okay, so Linux systems perform much better than Windows systems, okay, and there are a very less amount of uh, you know viruses or any such other kind of bugs that have been detected to be present in Linux systems when compared to Windows systems, because Linux operating system is, you know, supported by a community or a group of, you know, a lot of there is an open source community. A lot of developers are involved. They work on developing the Linux operating system. They contribute their free time in order to develop the tools, okay, in order to make the operating system more secure. So that's why, so Linux operating system is less impacted when compared to the Windows operating system. Okay, and not only that, if you take the high-end servers that are being used in organizations, all these servers, they run in a non-graphical mode. Okay, so tomorrow, even if you go and work on a Linux operating system, okay, on a server which is based on a Linux operating system, you will not get to see the graphics and all. You will only be running a few commands and get the things done. So that's the reason we'll have the course completely in a non-graphical mode. So we'll try to focus on learning as many commands as possible. Okay. Just wanted to check with you if you have any questions so far. Are you clear on the topic so far? Do you have any questions?
No, everything is clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now you can see this is the graphical mode. Okay, so this is the terminal. I'm going to quickly run the same set of commands here. Who am I? And host name. Okay, so execution wise, both are going to be the same. So what is the advantage of graphical mode is if you are in the beginning, okay, you might want to perform a few tasks using the graphical mode that could help you to have an understanding of the system. So for that, what I would suggest is quickly go through like just go through the options that are available here. Okay, system tools and utilities. For example, here you have a system monitor present. Okay, this is similar to the task manager that we have in the Windows system. Okay, so right click task manager. Now here, basically, I mean, in case if you have not observed, so the task manager basically lists out all the processes that are running in a Windows system, right? And what additional things that you can understand, you can learn from the task manager. So it talks about the CPU usage, okay? So it talks about the memory, it talks about the test. In general, okay, when you go to purchase a laptop or a desktop, these are the main uh, things that we focus on, right? So if someone has got a new laptop, we ask them like, what is the configuration that you have got? What is the disk space? Okay, 8 GB is disk space. That seems a pretty good amount of RAM present. And then what is the hard disk? Should be at least 500 GB or 1 TB these days, right? And we ask about what kind of processor that you have preferred, because it mainly helps you to speed up the things, how quickly your system can process. Because I mean, uh, so we generally feel that the system is very fast because I have got a better processor in my system. So apart from these three important parameters, there are also other parameters that are necessary to understand and learn. Okay, so the reason why I opened the task manager is everything that you see in a task manager. Okay, we'll use Linux commands in order to see all these options. Okay, say for example here, um, there is a command called top. Okay, so you may not be able to see all the graphics and all because this is totally a command line based uh, feature. So in case if you want to check uh, the command line tools, that you can refer here. Okay, and then you can also go to places and go through these options. So top command here, so here it is showing CPU, and these are all the processes that are running in my system. Okay, okay, so another important thing, please don't get confused by looking at all these processes. Frankly, even I don't know about all these processes. You would never, you need not have to know about all these processes. Okay, so So it is very important to know that there is a tool called top. Okay, there is a command called top. Enter. When you enter it, there would be a lot of processes running in the system. So we don't touch all the processes, but when we are running a process, so when you run, for example, a database instance, when you run a process like a Java or Oracle database instance or some software, so that process would be part of this list, process list. Okay. So if you know that this is the process list, so this refers to all the processes running in the system, and this also has information about each process, how much of CPU it is consuming, each process, how much of memory it is consuming. You need not have to worry about all these columns present. Understand what the process is, memory, CPU, come to the beginning, who is running the process, what is the process ID. Okay, very basic things. So that is what we will focus on. Okay, so I'm giving this example. I want you to feel comfortable and remember that. So there could be a lot of things in the system. Okay, but we will familiarize ourselves only with the important concepts only. Okay, so just you can ask me anytime like, so this looks complex. What is the areas I should focus about? So I'll give you a clarity on that. Okay. So like this, we will compare the things once in a while with Windows. Okay. So if you are very new to Linux operating system, all the operations that you perform starting from the beginning, okay, you log into your Windows system, you quickly browse from one location to another location. So whereas if you come to Linux, you have to keep issuing commands in order to switch from one place to the other place. So the only thing in case if you want to play some audio or video files in the Linux system, so that is the thing that you have to do it in a graphical mode. Okay, so other than that, we can do everything in a non-graphical mode. Well, among the flavors of Linux operating system I have mentioned, so Red Hat, CentOS, and Ubuntu. Other than these three are like from the same organization. We have another flavor. I hope you might have heard about it. It is Ubuntu operating system. That is a widely preferred desktop operating system. That means you can replace your uh, desktop with Ubuntu. So it supports all these kinds of most of the features that you would use in Windows. You can get all those features in Ubuntu. Okay. All right. Now we'll quickly go through some of the basic commands that are necessary. I'll show you the installation process in some time. Okay, so as a part of learning the Linux operating system, so it is very important to have an understanding of Linux architecture as well as the Linux booting process. Okay, so I'm going to explain what they are, but I would definitely suggest you to remember and also try to spend more time, okay, in learning more about this architectures, okay, architecture topic. Okay, so if you remember, I have started uh, talking about Linux operating system, saying that it was initially the Linux kernel that was developed, and the kernel has been taken and a lot of other tools have been developed around it. So if you can see my screen, okay, so in this picture, okay, so this is how the Linux operating system would look like. Okay, so this is your hardware layer. Imagine your laptop, okay, and the rest of it is surrounded by your operating system. Just remember only two layers: your hardware surrounded by your operating system. Now your operating system consists of different parts. The first one is your kernel. Okay, in fact, Linux is also you know uh, termed as a kernel. the kernel is the central core or the heart of your operating system. Okay, your kernel. I have talked about the different topics that we'll cover in the next course, right? Like the disk management, the process management, user management. So all these functionalities are taken care by your kernel only. Okay, so it is the kernel that is responsible for all the operations. It is the kernel that is responsible for all these features in a Linux system. Okay, so kernel is, that's why it is called as the core of the operating system. Apart from the kernel, we have something called shells. Okay, now what is a shell? Shell means, shell is called as an interpreter. Okay, it's like a mediator that we have. Mediator for what? So user is executing commands in Linux. Okay, and these commands are converted into a system understandable language or a binary language and is given as an input to the kernel. Okay, say for example, I run this command that you can see on the screen called who am I. Okay, system doesn't understand this, so it is your shell that will convert it to a system understandable language, gives it to the kernel, and kernel will try to uh, perform some actions. Okay, and it will say that, okay, for your question this is my answer, and that answer again is interpreted by the shell and it is displayed on the screen. Okay, so if you want to see, if you want to visualize what a shell is, I can only show you this command prompt. So this prompt which is there, when I log into my system, I land up in a shell. Okay, and the representative for shell is your shell prompt. This is called as a command prompt, or it is also called as a shell prompt. Okay, if I want to see which shell I'm using, I can use a command in order to check it. So echo $shell, it shows that I'm using a shell called bash. Okay, I'm using a shell called bash, and this bash is present in a location called bin. Okay, so always again in terms of the locations of files and folders, in Windows we use backward slash, and in Linux we use forward slash. That is the only difference. Okay, so we'll focus more on that as well. So coming back to the architecture part, so it is the kernel that takes care of everything. The shell, I hope you understood what it does. It is interpreter, and then we have all the other utilities and graphical applications. So here I showed you this part, right? So I have a graphical environment, and then I have a non-graphical environment. Comparatively, there isn't much difference between both the uh, environments. Okay, so in non-graphical environment, I can pretty much do everything, whatever I can do in a graphical environment. In fact, more than what I can do in a graphical environment. Okay, so how are they being? How can you differentiate between these two? So it is the graphical layer that differentiates. Okay, so you can assume a Linux system, okay, like this. So it is the kernel that is the heart of the operating system. It is present in graphical mode as well as non-graphical mode. Okay, and then you have shell present in both graphical and non-graphical mode. That is something that we have verified by opening a shell, by opening a terminal in both. And then we have utilities. Say for example, this utilities itself or the application programs, okay, itself is the graphical layer. Okay, so even if you don't have the outermost layer, I can connect to the shell, I can issue some commands, I can get the things done, right? So if I have a graphical layer, so what I do is I connect to a terminal that I've opened in the graphical layer, that in turn in the background connects to the shell, that in turn executes the commands and issues them to the kernel. So the graphical layer, so when you're talking, when you're working on Windows also, it is something similar to this that happens. Okay, so you open an application, you run something in the background, it will be issued as a command, and which in turn goes to the kernel, whatever is present in Windows operating system architecture. So that is how the flow continues. So it is so graphics are not important as long as you know how to interact, or if you are familiar with the commands in a Linux operating system. Clear? I hope you have got some understanding, but feel free to interrupt me, or you can also ask me about the architecture at any point of time in this course. I can always repeat that for you. Okay. So basically, the reason why I stress on these areas is because you can familiarize the things. You can assume something. You will have something in your mind when you're working, rather than just blindly running some commands. Now that I hope you have some clarity on how the operating system is. So the next topic we will focus on is the Linux booting process. The Linux booting process is about uh, the series of steps. Okay, so the moment you switch on your operating system, the Linux system, okay, and you would see that a lot of things happening on the screen, right? And you would see a lot of messages popping up on the screen, and finally, uh, if after a few seconds, you would see the login prompt. You will provide your username and password. So Linux booting process is about the set of steps that the system goes through, okay, and finally gives you a command prompt. So what are all these steps? What happens right from the moment you switch on and to the moment you see your Linux command prompt? So we will focus on this because it mainly helps you to have an understanding of how the system behaves, okay, the series of steps that the system will follow on how to launch the command prompt. It will also give you an understanding. Sometimes you may end up, in as a part of your day-to-day job, you might have you would face some issues with Linux system. Some file got corrupted, some feature got corrupted, and you might end up somewhere, say for example you couldn't start your system, there is some problem with the system. So having an understanding of booting process would help you to troubleshoot your system. Okay, not only about troubleshooting, but while working on different topics related to Linux system, you can correlate the things with the booting process, and you would have a better understanding of how the operating system would work. Okay, so that's the reason having an understanding of Linux booting process is equally important. Okay, now we'll see the different steps that are part of the Linux booting process. All right, everyone. Just a small information. So today we have scheduled the class just for 1 hour. Okay. Uh, we'll continue the session tomorrow, same time. We'll have a 2 hour session from tomorrow onwards. Just wanted to give you a quick introduction today. So we are going to wind up the class now. So I will request you to please download the software, keep it ready so that we'll go through the installation process, and also please try to go through the Linux architecture topic. Okay, and I will be taking your email IDs, and I will be sending you some content regarding the course that we'll cover. Okay, and I would also be sending you some assignment questions, and I would like you to practice, go through the questionnaire after the course. Okay, and I will also send you the steps on how to perform the installation process. Okay, meanwhile, before you can start come for tomorrow's class, you can practice. You can also go through the installation process. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in tomorrow's class. We'll quickly have a question and answer section before starting the session, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the course. Okay, so that's all for today's class, and thank you so much for attending the session. See you in tomorrow's class. Have a good day. Bye.